What's up everyone? Alex here. If you're a fan of tactical RPGs, you've probably been spoiled with a plethora of options released lately. From the incredible Tactics Ogre Reborn remake to my personal favorite, Triangle Strategy, there's bound to be a tactical RPG that would have piqued your interests. Persona 5 Tactica, announced and released in 2023, is one such game. And while it doesn't have the kind of depth that you find in more hardcore tactics games, it does offer a fun gameplay experience for fans who have recently dipped their toes in this diverse genre. But let's get a few details out of the way here, before we dive deep into this. Persona 5 Tactica is a cover-based tactical RPG that features Persona fusion mechanics, developed by P Studio and published by Atlus. The footage that you're seeing right now is from the PS5 version of the game, but it's also available on all modern platforms. Persona 5 Tactica is a non-canonical story that takes place during the events of Persona 5. Atlus producer Atsushi Nomura confirmed this in a post on the official Xbox blog, by the way. In Tactica, the Phantom Thieves discover a way into a mysterious section of the metaverse, ruled by a tyrannical despot whose absolute control knows no bounds. Teaming up with a group known as the Rebel Corps, the Phantom Thieves seek out to overthrow this ruler and save the populace. And if you played Persona 5, you'll know that things in the metaverse also have its equivalencies in the real world, which leads to some interesting implications. The very first thing that you might ask is whether or not you should play either Persona 5 or Royal in order to enjoy Tactica. If you're the kind of player that cares a lot about storytelling and in-depth character development, then you should definitely consider playing either of the aforementioned games, even if this one isn't canonical. Persona 5/Royal adds a lot of important backstory and character development to the Phantom Thieves that Tactica will simply gloss over, as it also greatly enhances your attachment to these characters. That said, you technically can play Persona 5 Tactica without playing the aforementioned games if you're merely curious about the genre and want a way to get in, because it does one very important thing that other cover-based tactical RPGs don't do. I say cover-based because much of Persona 5 Tactica's gameplay revolves around properly positioning your characters around the field behind objects for cover. Tactica's levels feature a wealth of full and half-cover obstacles on different elevations, which, when combined with your character's positioning, usually calculates a percentage success rate of either blocking or attacking enemies in similar games. If you played games like XCOM or games in the Mario and Rabbids series, you've no doubt encountered these numbers. And if you have, you know the frustration of seeing your character have a 90% accuracy rating, only to have their attacks miss, seemingly most of the time. You'd be happy to know then that Persona 5 Tactica completely does away with these accuracy ratings. And if there is a miss that happens now and then, it usually favors you, though you can always choose a harder difficulty if you're a glutton for punishment. Though keep in mind that if you do choose a harder difficulty setting, not only will the margin of error in battle increase, but friendly fire will also be enabled, a consideration that you normally wouldn't have to think about in Persona games. That said, the type of cover and its elevation does determine how much damage your characters receive. Positioning your character behind full cover, with enemies that are only able to shoot at you from the front, is a guaranteed way to be shielded from their attacks. Conversely, positioning your character behind half cover guarantees that half of the full damage you typically receive will be inflicted. Needless to say, this change removes the unpredictability that's typical of cover-based tactical RPGs, allowing for more brazen offensive strategies than those other games. Leaving the battlefield for a brief moment, one really cool feature you can do in Persona 5 Tactica is the ability to equip sub-personas to any Phantom Thief. This means that every single party member can have one additional persona in addition to their main. This allows your party members to avail of their equipped sub-personas' stat boosts, as well as access to up to 2 additional skills. Granted, the persona system in Tactica is a bit simplified. You don't have to worry about your sub-persona's elemental weaknesses, for instance, but this streamlining allows you to place more importance on your positioning and strategies on the battlefield, and not have to worry about botching your builds beforehand. To that end, Tactica also features skill trees that you're always able to respec at no additional cost. This allows you to be more experimental with Tactica's skill systems in a way that is more freeing than other games of its type, allowing access to an unprecedented level of experimentation and customization. It's through these few outline features that we start seeing the thesis behind Tactica's design, to provide a tactical RPG experience that is not only scalable in its difficulty, but also allows new fans of the genre to focus on implementing their strategies rather than spending too much time away from its battles. Naturally, this isn't a condemnation of other tactical RPGs that feature more robust and in-depth customization features. Rather, it's a design approach that puts more emphasis on what happens during the battles themselves, removing the complexity from the stats being calculated behind the scenes, and adding more complexity to its combat gameplay while still making it cohesive. And that latter part is extremely difficult to design. Tactica achieves this thanks to the many gameplay elements that separate it from Persona 5 and Royal. One such feature is called a charge attack. Whenever a character ends their turn without executing actions, and you can still position them, mind you, they'll receive a charge that alters their next attack. The effects of the charge can be powered up through the skill tree, and these can vary from character to character, ranging from forced knockdowns to increasing said character's attack ranges and skill effects. Another unique feature is the voltage gauge. Voltage builds up whenever you inflict damage on an enemy or whenever your characters receive damage. When filled up, you can spend the whole gauge and unleash a character-specific unique skill, which too can be upgraded via the skill tree. One of my favorites has to be Anne's, which summons a walking bomb to explode on your target and also grants you an additional action. And in case you didn't know, Tactica does carry over features such as all-out attacks and baton passes from Persona 5 and Royal, albeit in a form suitable to tactical RPG combat. But perhaps the most intriguing feature of Persona 5 Tactica is one that I initially thought was gonna be a challenge to set up, which is the Triple Threat. The Triple Threat is an attack that deals a ton of damage to enemies and objectives contained within the triangle formed by your party members. Anytime a party member is able to knock down an enemy, they not only get an additional action, but they'll also be able to activate Triple Threat. Triple Threats require at least one downed enemy within the triangle to trigger, but as long as your characters haven't selected their actions yet, you can spend as much time as you want repositioning your characters to maximize the amount of damage inflicted. In other words, you're able to move your characters around and execute actions after the Triple Threat is triggered to follow up on this massive attack. All these aside, one curious thing that's not really a big named feature is how your attacks and skills, as well as some environmental hazards, can forcibly move your opponents from one tile to another. This type of manipulation is usually locked to a particular class or ability in other games, but Tactica practically allows this for any character you play as. And when combined with all of the aforementioned features, you'll quickly realize how Tactica's battle system allows you to create offensive combinations that can really pile on the damage on your opponents in incredibly fun and satisfying ways. And considering how you only get 3 party members to command during each mission, there's definitely an increased emphasis with composing your party, especially when considering the many options available to you during combat. While Persona 5 Tactica's story is at best an entertaining side narrative that has no bearing on the mainline Persona game's events, I did enjoy seeing the Phantom Thieves go on a brand new adventure in a different form. The visual aesthetic of Tactica borrows much from their prior appearance in Persona Q2. And while at first, I wasn't sure how I'd respond to this shift in art style, I've come to appreciate its aesthetic as both appropriate for the genre and still representative of the characters we've come to know. The art style is very compact, but still allows for each individual character's unique designs and nuances to stand out, thanks to a thoughtful consideration of each character's looks and aesthetics. Which leads me to another fun thing about Persona 5 Tactica that I love. Almost every single battle in the game is conducive to bite-sized gameplay, meaning its skirmishes don't take a long time to complete. Other tactical RPG battles require a minimum of 15 minutes to complete, with others stretching to several hours for just a single combat scenario. But Persona 5 Tactical's battles were designed to be played in short bursts, as you're also given multiple bonus objectives that can net you additional bonuses, which is then conducive to repeated play should you wish to fulfill all of these additional requirements. And the fact that the entire team shares a single level means grinding is less of a hassle, allowing you to, once again, focus on crafting your strategies, which is tied to your party composition, as opposed to worrying about leaving some characters behind because you haven't played with them recently. This is all to say that Persona 5 Tactica is actually one of those unique tactical RPGs that manages to not only create an environment conducive to teaching new tactical RPG fans the basics of the genre, but also delivers by crafting a system that can scale up in difficulty, allowing veterans to test their mettle in ways that feels different from the game's easier difficulties. And yes, the news of its non-canonicity might burn out some people, but that shouldn't overshadow the fact that Persona 5 Tactica does a lot of really clever and innovative things that puts it in a league of its own. And I for one enjoyed my adventures with the Phantom Thieves this time around, and I'm of the firm belief that if you pick this game up, that you will too.